The product in nearly every wallet on earth was, for most of its early life, something banks tried and quit. Not once, but repeatedly. The credit card was not an idea that arrived and won. It was an idea that kept failing, kept losing money, and kept getting abandoned by the institutions that launched it, until one program survived almost by refusing to be canceled. The honest history is not that every bank rejected the credit card outright. It is that the credit card almost did not make it, and the reasons it nearly died are stranger than the reasons it lived. Start with the resistance built into the culture. Before any of this, Americans were suspicious of the basic idea of credit. In 1954, the dean of the business school at the University of Southern California, Lawrence Lockheed, wrote that deep in American culture sat the belief that a person should not live beyond their means. Buying on borrowed money was something to be ashamed of, not a convenience to be marketed. That was the ground the credit card had to grow in. The first general purpose card came in 1950, and it was not from a bank at all. It was Diners Club, founded by Frank McNamara, his attorney Ralph Schneider, and Mattie Simmons. The familiar origin story says McNamara forgot his wallet at a New York restaurant and resolved never to be embarrassed again. That story is part legend, and it is worth treating it that way. But the company was real. The first charge was made on February 8, 1950, at a restaurant called Major's Cabin Grill near the Empire State Building, and the company launched that same day with $1.5 million in backing. Even the people closest to it were not convinced. When Mattie Simmons first heard the pitch in 1950, he was not impressed. The concept did not seem useful to him, and what worried him most was that he would have to persuade restaurants to honor it. Years later, he wrote a book about those early days and titled it The Credit Card Catastrophe. The card itself was cardboard, not plastic, and it was not a credit card in the modern sense. There was no revolving balance, no carrying debt with interest. The full bill came due every month. Restaurants were charged a fee of 5 to 7% to accept it, and many were reluctant. The man who built it, Frank McNamara, doubted Americans would ever embrace credit, and he sold his stake in the company around 1952 for $200,000, before the industry he seeded grew into the giant it became. Then the banks tried, and this is where the pattern of failure becomes clear. In 1951, Franklin National Bank on Long Island, under its president Arthur Roth, issued what is often called the first true bank card. Hundreds of banks followed its example, and then they ran into the wall that would defeat most of them. A single bank's card only worked locally, but customers wanted to use cards beyond their own town. The early bank cards were free to consumers, extended no real credit, charged no interest, and made money only from the fee paid by merchants. They were not profitable, so bank after bank simply gave up. The scale of that retreat is captured in one statistic. Of roughly 200 bank card operations that existed in 1967, only 27 had survived since the 1950s. The rest had folded, quit, or been abandoned. Most banks that tried the credit card in that first decade walked away from it. The idea was not rejected by a vote. It was rejected by attrition, one quiet cancellation at a time. One of the 27 survivors was Bank AmeriCard, and its survival was anything but certain. On September 18, 1958, Bank of America launched it in Fresno, California, with a method that would become infamous. The bank mailed 65,000 unsolicited, fully working credit cards to people who had never asked for them, each carrying a $300 line of credit. It came to be known as the Fresno Drop. The program was the work of Joseph Williams, who ran the bank's in-house research group and had convinced executives in 1956 to let him pursue it. And here the record is precise about what he actually achieved. Williams's accomplishment was not inventing the credit card. It was getting the project implemented and keeping it from being canceled outright. Fresno was chosen on purpose. It had about 250,000 residents. Bank of America held close to 45% of the market there, and it was obscure enough that if the experiment collapsed, it would not draw national attention. The bank was hedging against its own failure before it began. Merchants did not welcome the card. Large retailers like Sears, Montgomery Ward, and Woolworth ran their own charge programs, saw the new card as competition, and objected to the 6% fee. Bank of America had to recruit hundreds of Fresno businesses one by one. What happened next nearly ended the whole thing. The program was overrun with problems. The delinquency rate hit 22%, meaning more than 1 in 5 accounts was not being paid as agreed. Fraud spread. Williams had been too trusting in the basic honesty of the bank's customers, and in December 1959, a little more than a year after the launch, he resigned. The losses to Bank of America were estimated at around $20 million. The bank was forced to send an open apology by letter to millions of California households over the fraud and the chaos. By every short-term measure, the credit card looked like a mistake the bank had made in public. Bank of America then made a decision few would have predicted from the wreckage. It decided the program was worth saving. It tightened its financial controls, cleaned up the fraud, and held on. In May 1961, Bank AmeriCard turned a profit for the first time. And the bank kept that fact secret, deliberately, to avoid alerting competitors that the credit card could actually make money. The product had gone from a $20 million embarrassment to a quiet success the company was afraid to advertise. The card was still trapped inside one bank, in one state. The person who broke it loose was D. Hock, brought in during 1968 to manage the card's rollout in the Pacific Northwest. Hock saw the flaws in the way Bank of America was licensing the card to other banks, and he argued that the credit card could succeed on its own, separate from the bank that created it. In 1970, control of the program was handed to the banks that issued it, forming a new organization with Hock at its head. The brand that grew out of that reorganization is the one now recognized everywhere. Visa set the whole sequence side by side, and the shape of it is clear. A culture that treated debt as shameful. A founder who doubted his own product and sold out early. A first wave of banks that launched cards and then quit in such numbers that only 27 of 200 operations survived the decade. A flagship program that lost $20 million, drove out the man who built it, and forced a public apology within its first year. The credit card was not embraced. It was doubted, abandoned, and nearly canceled at almost every stage. What carried it through was not enthusiasm. It was a single bank deciding, against the evidence in front of it, not to kill the thing. The object in your wallet survived less because anyone believed in it, and more because, at the one moment it mattered most, no one pulled the plug.